Is it happening within me? Is what we want to look at. Is it happening within me? Is my potential being realized? Am I opening my eyes to all the opportunities that are here? Am I living the authenticity of myself? Okay? How do you know? How do you know if you are? How do you know if you're not? I suppose both are probably important. You know you're living your potential when the truth of you is all you experience. The truth of you is all you experience. So when you enter a moment, that moment is not colored by coping mechanisms, and it's not distracted by the past and the future, and it's not removed. You're not removed from the moment by triggers. The triggers point you inward. The coping mechanisms alert you to distraction. Just like we alerted you, hey, we feel you going into the past and the future. Let's focus back into the moment. You're living your potential when the truth of you is who you are. And you live the truth of you when you don't allow outside influences to dictate your internal world. Outside experiences reflect your internal journey and give you opportunities for growth, but they do not dictate your internal experience. Your internal experience is a series of acknowledged choices that you make consciously in order to move into bliss. So you find yourself triggered, you go into neutral observation. When you're in neutral observation, you find out as the past and the future are trying to sneak in. If it is, moving it aside, opening up to your soul's insight. Am I experiencing my soul's insight and then judging what I'm hearing, or judging my ability to experience my soul's insight? Looking at your experience around judgment, seeing if you can set that aside. Blah, 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 blah. They go in a little circle. Maybe sometimes they go in a square. They all go together. And it really is a time now where when you get triggered by your life, when your life stirs you up and confuses you, the first thing you want to go to is, what tool is the tool for now? You can always go to neutral observation first. That's a perfect starting point. Neutral observation first. Then when you take what you observe neutrally, sometimes you observe, I'm triggered. Now, that's a little bit of a different way to talk about it than we've done in the past. But when you get into a neutral state, you can see a trigger waiting to be worn. You see? Instead of wearing the trigger, you see the trigger waiting to be worn. Like we have with Mary and the cop pulling you over and all that. You see the cop walking in the rearview mirror, walking up to the car to give you a ticket. There's the trigger waiting to be worn. And I'm neutrally, as best I can, observing that trigger coming my way. Right? So you go into neutral observation and make your observation. And then from your observation, it can give you other opportunities to move through. So I see, okay, if a cop's coming to my door, the past is in my moment. Most likely the past is in my moment because I know I got pulled over before, or my friends got pulled over before, or the guy down the block got pulled over before, and then within a moment, you're in the future, I'm going to have to go to court, and my insurance is going to go up, and how much is this damn ticket going to cost me, and la 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 la, how long is this going to take, I'm going to be late, right? Immediately, trigger, you have experience, here comes the cop, the past and the future. Even though you can neutrally observe, you can watch them. This is the place we want you guys to get to, and we believe you do this pretty consistently, is you watch the trigger waiting for you to buy into it. You see it. Just pretend it's a cop. Oh, here he comes. And you're like, okay, where am I going to go? And what else is happening? Adrenaline response, right? The biology needs to be tended to. So simultaneously, you're watching the trigger come and you're having to monitor the physical response to the situation you're in. That's why we've taken these tools one at a time. We didn't try to combine them before because you needed to kind of be experts at them individually before we start lumping them together. But here it comes. Here comes the trigger. Immediately you're having a fear response. So in your body, what you have to always ask is, am I in physical danger in this moment? Does somebody have a gun to my head? A knife to my throat? Am I getting run over in a crosswalk? Whatever your situation is, am I in physical danger? No. Then this adrenaline response is simply the survival instinct trying to support me. Okay, great. Thank you for supporting me. You're on the shelf for a minute. Because you cannot be in this adrenaline response and acknowledge the triggers from a neutral perspective. You just get sucked into it. Like we talked, Randy, about the make-believe example of your sister coming over and hassling you about her pretty new car. And you have a biological response to that. If you're in the biological response, you can't be in neutral observation. Now, you may not be able to turn off the adrenaline thing, but if you can look at it, acknowledge it, say I'm not in danger, and at least shelve it. Okay, so you've got two things you're doing simultaneously. You're shelving the biological response because you've ascertained you're not actually in physical danger, and you're watching the trigger try to come and have you wear it to supper tonight. So here's the cop, standing next to the car. License and registration, please. And you're like, okay. What do you ask yourself then? You say, I don't know anything about what's going on. That's the safety place. That's the safety place. I don't know anything about what's going on right now. Again, the reason this works is because you've never gotten pulled over from the high vibrational place you currently occupy. So even if you've gotten pulled over in the past, you are a different being, therefore you can have a different experience, but you don't know what it is because you've never had the opportunity to have the experience yet. So if you can stay in, I don't know anything about what's going on here. He says license and registration. You get out your license and your registration. That's what's going on. He's making a clear request of you. You respond with a clear answer. Because what you want to stay in is truth, truth, truth. Because truth is the highest vibrational state you can be in. If I don't know what's going on, what am I learning about what's going on? If I don't know what's going on here, what do I see that's actually occurring? So the cop pulls you over and you think, okay, I'm not going to have the past and the future in the moment. I'm not going to have the biological response telling me who I am. I'm going to be here as neutrally as possible, probably still sweating, probably still with your heart beating. You can't necessarily turn those things off. Okay? But you can say, I hear you, but you're not running the show. Remember the example we had when the TV's playing in the background trying to sell you some knife collection? You don't just run over to the phone and order it every single time you hear it, right? Okay, so if the body is telling you, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, you're really good at tuning that stuff out. You just have to know that it's okay to tune it out. And the way you know is by saying, I don't see why I'm supposed to be afraid. Okay, good. You're over there with the commercial for Ginsu knives or whatever they're called. You get in the neutral observation. I don't know what's going on here. What do I see that's true? What's true in this moment? I'm open to insight from my soul. What crayons can I color with that I didn't know were here? Right? We've had lots of different ways of saying the same thing, which is basically, what's really going on? I need to know what's really going on in this moment, not colored by the past or the future, so that I can bring my authenticity to it. Because this is the point. Your potential is to live authentically in every moment, but you cannot apply authenticity if you don't know what's going on. And if what you think is going on is actually something from your past, you cannot be authentic in your past. You can only be authentic in the moment as the moment presents itself. That's why we're talking about this. You want your potential to be fully realized. It means the moment has to be available to you. The moment becomes available to you by getting the biological response dealt with, by getting the past and the future out, by being neutrally observant and opening up to the truth being revealed to you through your soul and through the experiences of the people you're interacting with. That's how it works. That's how you live your potential, and that's how you embrace the truth of you. The moment has to be where you're living.